We wired in?
Invest the money instead of the house.
Okay. We wired in?
Invest in the crypto instead of the stocks.
Alright. Let's go. Alright, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have my man Jimmy back on this podcast. A lot has transpired since we had our last conversation. I didn't get a chance to post that one. It was long. He gave me long answers, and I had long questions, and there's a lot of long in there.
Hey, yo. But I'm the problem, right?
Hey, wicked. But something that I've been going over, that I've been thinking about is Proverbs 27 verses 5 through 6. It said, "Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." So I say that to say is that we live in a culture that, telling the truth can be deemed as rude, offense, hate. And I think about our conversations we had when we first got together in Nashville, as that you just confronted me with truth. You was real, and I was like, man, I like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want no fake friends. I don't want somebody to tell me something I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I just, that's just a statement. It's no question, but just elaborate. Why do you, pride yourself in being real?
Oh, man. So I would say it all essentially always boils down to, I treat people essentially the way that I would hope that they treated me, right? So if I'm going down a path in life that clearly can harm me, I hope someone would intervene and say, hey, you should probably reconsider where you're going to head to is not going to result well. So yeah, I think just to kind of keep it simple, I just look at I take my relationship serious, and I just treat people in the way that I would want to be treated as well.
Absolutely. I think a thing I've been thinking about is, I feel like the culture is the way it is because a lot of friends just almost Band-Aid, or what they call it, Band-Aid or aid destruction. And I think
cosign.
Cosign. I think especially when you confronted me about relationships, like, everybody knows that, I was talking to a lot of different women, but also claiming to be real or claiming to be a Christian. And you was like, man, Sean, you doing this and doing that. You saying this and doing that, but you X, Y, and Z. And I was like, man, like, you right though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I used to, date other women and stuff, I used to run into the problems where they friends. It's like, well, she's a good girl. She's this, she's that. And I'm like, hold on. I admit that I was in the streets and I met your friend in the streets.
Right.
What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the reason why the culture is what it is today is because those same friends is aiding it and creating a cancer of a society where it's no accountability. And I feel like when we had our conversations at the table, I think that's why it led to me being married today, because I had to make a decision.
So here's a question I would ask you, right? I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, right?
Right.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Please don't come after me, but
okay.
Here's a question I would have. Do you see that more amongst women and their relationships with other women in comparison to men and their relationships with, their boys?
It's crazy that you asked this question, because my next question it was going to be about double standards, right? And my answer to your question is definitely amongst women. I think men, and which is goes to my question to you about double standards. See, we always make double standards strictly about sex, and which it is. It's double standards when it comes to that. But I think it's also a double standard in favor of women when it comes to accountability. I think women can make those mistakes and trip up and do what they do, and men in workplaces and relationships give women a pass, like, she's learning. You know what I'm saying? Men, we don't get that grace that women get. And I think about that, especially in the workforce. A woman could say, "Man, that's too heavy," or my mental is not right. Men say that? Oh no, we cooked.
Yeah. And I never want to come across as sexist or come down on one gender only, because you have your exceptions, things like that. But I had this conversation with my dad, and I think ultimately it boils down to biology, right? Like, how are women just naturally created by God in comparison to men? We are just so different on so many levels on a basic scientific standard or biological basis. It's like, I can look at my son and I could tell him, hey, don't do that. And it'll register, right? Okay. Like, okay, if I do that, I'm gonna get hurt. Where my daughter is like, no, and then she'll just do it. and my daughter's 2.5. You know, my son is 4. So it's like, where is already the disconnect? And I think always it just comes down to, like, on a biological basis, bro, we're just wired different. We are able to have more logic as men in comparison to women, where women are driven more so by their emotions and their feelings and things like that. So, I think it's essentially a fight against biology.
So do you think in that regards that there's almost like a favor towards a gender? Because, women always preach equality, but based off that, how can we be equal when it's already a disconnect from the jump?
So I think when they say equality, I think it's hard, right? So there's definitely, I think there's grace. There's for sure grace, right? Because I know if I look at my son and my daughter, definitely not equal. Now, they're equal in regards to value, right, in the sight of God, but in regards to the roles that they play in their lives, like, I would never expect my daughter to be a provider and a protector of the family. If someone breaks into the house, I hope her husband would never say, babe, go handle that. I hope the husband's gonna step in and say, no, take care of the kids, I got it. That's not to negate a woman, but it's like, hey, that's a role you have to play. The man is a protector. The woman, she's also a protector of the kids, but they have different roles, and it just goes together, So
why do you think there's a conflict between men and women when it comes to roles? Because, a woman can say, I'm a woman, I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. You a man, you should be that. But why is it where it becomes where a woman start to step into a man's role because it's convenient at the time? It's like they want to be a woman when it's time to be a woman, and then they want to be a man when they feel like the man ain't doing what he's supposed to do. I think, like, how can they play the double sides where a man can't do that at all? Because I feel like, and like I said, I'm not just focused on the woman. I'm talking about the man, and in relationships I've been in and have seen, where a man, if they was going to my next question, if they complain about something, speak up about something, the culture, the women say, man, he's sassy. How can you? And then at the same time, you say, the man needs to be more emotional, more, connecting to the woman and say this, say it like this, or say it like that. I mean, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, so I think that definitely culture has a lot to to do with that, and and I think that's why, ironically, when Trump says "Make America Great Again," the '60s, it's not that there wasn't racism or things like that, but you had the nuclear family, right? Okay. So you had the head of the household, you had the mom staying at home with the kids. God was the center of every household. And so when you veer away from that, what happens? You start to have a power struggle. You have to have so you have all these movements with feminism, things like that, and more power to the women. Don't get me wrong. I think they should vote. I think they should be able to enter positions if they want to. But yeah, I think it's just double standards, bro. I just think when you veer away from what's always worked, you get this result. And I think Western cultures, because if you go look at other countries that keep that same tradition, they don't have that problem. Right. So culture definitely has a lot to do with it.
Definitely. Do you think we can get back to the nuclear family?
Man, going to take a lot of forcing, to be honest. I think anything is possible, right? But I think it starts at home. So it
definitely,
if we tell men it's okay to go provide for your family, and we tell women it's okay to be at home with the kids and not work and not be a boss bee and this and that, because let's be honest, and correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, how many of you really want to work? How many of you are really pleased? Yes, you might have the freedom and this and that, but how many of you guys enjoy waking up early, hustling, bustling, going to bed, and then doing it all over again, rinse and repeat? So I think for sure it's possible. I think we just have to uplift the communities, tell the men it's okay to be strong, and tell the women it's okay to be a woman.
Man, I was talking to my dad. I said, I asked him the same question, but one thing he said is that men don't value women like old men back in the day did. So, and that's why I say, like, when women say, I'm single, I can do whatever I want, men is watching that. We logical. Why would you want to provide for somebody that's out there? You know what I'm saying? So it caused a disconnect. It's a cancer. It started off something small like that, and then I remember. I'll tell you a story. I remember back then, before and I talked to Jerry 808 about this too. I remember when I was going first into school, like grade school. And I remember it was like the girl that everybody wants to talk to. And you saw as boys trying to prove ourselves to this girl. Right? And as I got older and stuff, high school came, it still was those type of girls where the guys like, hey, I gotta have my stuff together. This is high school, But the more things got sexualized, I seen that desire to prove themselves to a woman, it start to die. Who worked in the Bible? I think it was, I forgot who it was. Jacob. Man, the woman he labored for years. I think he worked 7 years plus 7.
And then got the older sister. Dad lied, and then labored another 7 for the sister he wanted.
So he's working 14 years, right? He got deceived and worked additional 7 years. You can't tell me otherwise. Like, he saw something in her that no other woman had. The value. And I feel like even though the world do what they do, we still uphold principles like inside that we don't acknowledge that we get from God. Like, we want a woman that's like virtuous, right? And I know, men and women make mistakes. So, everybody, but I think it's the mindset of a woman, the mindset of a man. A woman walks in the room, they should be able, or that man, as he's pursuing that woman, he like, man, I see the value in her and I'm going to go get her. And I don't see that no more. And I think that's why the roles, it's like a man don't want to be a man because he don't have to be a man. Or you get the other side where he just focus on himself. just selfish. Focus on his money, and he pay for women.
Yeah, so that's why I say I go back to my original statement. I think it's culture. Because even with men, men are like, oh, if I can't smash in a week or 30 days, I'm on to the next one.
Right.
So it's also men, you know, we're not any better. We're out here like, oh, I want her. We try. And then, all right, it's not in my time. I'm going to jump to the next girl. Right. So us as men, we've lost control as well through social media, through Tinder, through Instagram. We have a lot more access to be able to lust on a more constant basis than during that time. Right. So look at the culture of Jacob comparison to today. He would have lost himself.
It was beautiful women back then though too, bro.
No, for sure. But it's always, you have to learn how to control yourself, right? Okay. So, and then on the flip side with the ladies, same thing. You know, people in general thrive off of attention. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you put up a pic and you're revealing yourself a little bit too much, and you notice you get 1,000 likes or 100, 200 likes. I start doing it more.
I want to say this to the woman, like, what was your, I don't know how I'm going to ask this question. I think it's more of a statement than a question, but when women do post the pictures, right, and you probably talk to women that post pictures that entice you and you wanted to talk because you saw what you saw, but then at the same breath they say all men want is my body. How do you respond to the? I feel like that's the most ignorant statement a woman can make. Of course.
Well, so again, I think it boils down to what was that woman's previous experiences like, and that may have been what she was also attracting unknowingly, right? So again, it's the culture. It's the culture. What are we ingraining our children? Bro, look at our culture in America compared to, let's say, China, for example.
Right.
You go in the algorithm in TikTok, it's like mathematics, skills, sciences, this and that. You go on our algorithm and it's twerking, you know, dances and this and that. So it all boils down to culture. But I definitely think men also aren't, you know, kind and generous and open on how they used to be. Now it's, I just want to smack hoes and do my thing and have fun.
I get it though. Like, I think I'm when we have this conversation, I feel like I'm in the middle, because a part of me, it's like I'm a man, and I'm not justifying it, because men are visual, right? So you growing up in a culture, or the average person don't grow up with two parents in the home. So a young man going through this, and this is what I was talking to about Jerry 808. It's like he's gonna go through emotions, he's gonna go through hormones and whatever. But thank God he has two parents. But the average man, boy, don't do that, right? So it's like you going through all these emotions and hormones, and this girl, 15, 16 years old, developing, and we see how these girls developing. It's like, it's hard to tell that young boy, like, you know, control yourself when it's out there. I remember teachers, and when I was in middle school, high school, teachers like, man, I can't even look. And you need to go change. You know what I'm saying? Grown men.
So I think, again, it boils down to what's going on at home. For me and my daughter, you know, Lord willing, my goal is to teach her, hey, you're beautiful. You know, if you have your mama's body, it is what it is. But that doesn't mean you need to showcase it. Right. Now, on the flip side, for my sons, I'm going to tell them, just because someone's revealing themselves isn't justification for you to take advantage, right? So it's like, you're wealthy, I'm poor, and I rob you to feed my kid. I still robbed you. It doesn't justify it, you know? So I think it's both sides. And again, it's the culture. It starts off, what goes on at home? Are the parents paying attention? Or is dad out always working and mom is working, and then they subject the kids to the school? What culture are they growing up in? So again, I think it all starts with the nuclear family and two parents being at home, and not only at home, but them also paying attention to their kids and spending time and teaching them.
Amen. I think a lot of these relationships, the culture or people get in I think it's really for attention. I think it's really people get in relationships out of lack. You know, what they lacked in their childhood, they try to find it in another person. And I remember, you know, talking to other women, I remember like they looked at me as a boyfriend, but I had a feeling that they also looked at me as to fill a void as their dad. And I used to say, I'm not your dad. Like, I felt that. And so I think that's important, you know.
But that goes back to my point. What's the culture at home?
Right.
It's the dad. My immediate response, the moment I start to see men and women act a certain way that reveals trauma, what's going on in the house? Is mom home? Is dad home? Okay, if they're home, are they spending time with you? Are they paying attention? Because kids at their youngest years need attention. If you're neglecting that, they go seek it elsewhere. They go to school, they get in trouble, they join gangs. Ask everybody in the gang, why are you in the gang? I'm getting the love here from my brothers than I am at home.
Right.
Because I get beat at home. When I come out in the streets, my brothers show me love. So it's all about love, and that's being neglected in the house, so they seek it elsewhere.
Right. And I mean, this culture got a distorted view of love. Like, it goes back to when I first opened this up, was, you know, your love, real love is telling somebody the truth. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like because the culture is so far off, the love language is warped. It's almost like if I medicate you through to damnation, to hell, that's true. That's being a real friend. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's completely wrong, because I don't know, it's because the way I grew up, but tell me the truth. Tell me if I cross the street, a car come hit me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, so that's why I feel like I have a small circle of friends. I feel like as I'm getting older, the more friends you have, that's the more fake that you are acceptable to have around you. You know what I'm saying? I don't think, even like with Jesus, you know, 12 disciples, right? 11, 12. But he still had his circle.
His inner three.
His inner three. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not
Transfiguration.
And we're not saying, besides for Judas, but we're not saying the other disciple wasn't real, but he had his main core friends that, you know, he was able to, you know, dialogue with. But I do got a question for you. How do you see life with kids right now, with your kids? What is your perception? Everything that's happening in the culture, are you gonna allow them to go to school? Are you gonna homeschool them?
Yeah, so I think definitely, you know, I use the analogy of hunting, right? So until I deem my children capable of wielding a bow, going out there hunting, stalking, being able to kill the animal on their own, daddy and mommy are always going to be with them. So definitely going to be homeschooling, because I want to control the narrative for my children, right?
Amen.
I believe a lot of these kids are subjected to things too early in their lives, and that creates a struggle as they grow up with the things that they're trying to teach them at home. So definitely gonna homeschool. I'm really not too worried, because I know God has revealed to me how much an impact a mother and a father can have. So as long as we're constant and we're consistent in their lives, and we spend time with them, we'll be fine. So yeah, definitely gonna homeschool for a period of time before I deem they're capable, and then, you know, we take it from there.
So it's one thing you keep talking about is, you know, being with mom and dad, and it's a good thing, and I think both sides where I look at it, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. And the reason why I can say this is because the question I have to ask, do you believe generational curses?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. And how's that affected your life?
Well, you know, I myself carried a generational curse, and my dad carried it. My mom was subject to it and carried it as well. So, I mean, the main one for all of us was lack of a father in the household, right? So my dad didn't know his dad till he was 16. I didn't grow up with my dad in the household. I knew my dad, spent time with my dad, but they divorced when I was 3. My mom's dad, he was murdered when she was, I think, 18, 19, 20, something like that. So I didn't know my grandpa. So, and that goes on both sides of the family. But yeah, 100%.
So I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Talk to the person that's going through the similar generational curse that you're going through of a lack of a father. What advice you would give that person, whether it's that a woman or a man, boy, girl?
So I would say come to know who Jesus Christ is, because he was the father that I needed for me, right? He was my father. So he taught me how to be a man, how to become patient, how to become understanding, how to deal with my anger and release emotions the proper way. So I would say I heard a man say, we always seek to have the divine intervene in our lives, but we need to seek to intervene with the divine, because when we do that, he's able to work in our lives in a way that we would never deem imaginable. And he could take the lowest of the low, the broken of the broken, the lost of the lost, and make them something, glorify himself through you. So I would say just come to know who Jesus Christ is, who God is, and come with an open heart and know that sanctification is a process. You're not going to be perfect overnight. When I first came to the Lord, I was still drinking every night, getting drunk, and then reading my Bible because I didn't know any better. And then now, 3, 4, 5 years later, I no longer do that, right? So he has grace. He has mercy for you. He loves you. Come as you are. Don't stay as you are, right? Amen. So if you come as you are in 2020, you better not be doing the same stuff in 2025. He expects more out of his children the more you know him. So, but just know he's gracious, he's merciful. He yearns for all of us to know him. So, just answer the call.
Hey, I forgot all about, you say you struggle with drinking or whatever. And what happened a couple of days ago transpired. I wanted you to tell whoever's watching, you was always convicted about drinking, right? It was something that you battle with, you struggle with, and I know drinking is not a sin, but I think to each person conviction, it could be a sin, right, if God is telling you to stop. So shoot, give me another 2 minutes. Go into that, man.
So drinking is not a sin. Getting drunk is, right? So we know that just for everybody, getting drunk is the line that God crosses. So essentially, long story short, without getting too much into it, because 2 minutes isn't enough, but here's the thing. When God calls you out of something and you keep playing with it, he will remove that hedge and allow suffering to occur to wake you up. So let's just say I've been walking with the Lord for quite a bit, and I'm pretty familiar with the patterns that he uses to speak to me and my lives with certain miracles and wonders. And I subjected myself in a spiritual sense, and let's just say my family was under attack at some point. My little boy, he was seizing, right? My 11-month-old had a seizure, and I was holding him in my hands. He was seizing, and then he wasn't breathing. His face turned blue, which I've never seen that happen before. And I performed CPR on him, was able to, bring him back to life by the grace of God, and thank God he's been okay ever since. So, but I was playing with something that the Lord told me to stop playing with, and he allowed me to see some suffering as a result of that. So, if God is clearly convicting you in your conscience and in your spirit to stop doing something, don't play with it. Stop doing it, because he will allow you to be hurt a little bit to wake you up.
Amen. it's a lot that like transpired. But one thing about Jimmy, I see things and I'm like, man, I don't want that to happen to me. But it's a love language though that I was thinking about, because God, he talks to us, right? And sometimes we need that extra push, to be on the path that he called us to be on, which leads to me saying, I feel like the culture has this autonomous view, like this is my will, and I think the struggle between the world and God is that the world feel like I'm in control, and when you went through what you went through, I was just to myself and thinking like, man, we're really not in control. Like your kids and my kids is God's creation. Like he can take it away. Like I think about Job when he said he can give and he can take away, but he's still God. It's like, and like the more and more I think about it, it's like, man, like I can try.
Yeah.
And like he gives the ability to just be stewards over whatever, but ultimately he says yes and he says no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it also makes me think of David, his son that was born with Bathsheba, right? So we know he committed adultery, had sex with a married woman, then sent Uriah, the husband, to the front lines to get murdered to cover up his sin. And God allowed the son to be born, live 7 days, and then die.
Man.
So we know that God does not play when it comes to obeying him. We see what happened to Adam and Eve. He told them one time, don't touch this. They touched it, they ate it, and they were banished from his presence.
Cooked.
But we see God's grace and mercy all throughout the theme after the fact, which he says, I'm going to grant you salvation from my will and my doing. I'm going to come and conquer it for you, and then show you what it really looks like, and then you'll still be able to dwell with me. So at the end of the day, we are fallen, we do dumb stuff, but he's still gracious and merciful and takes that into account when he works with us.
Amen. This is Pastor Jimmy, man. He's a blessing in my life. Blessing. Like I said, it's good to have friends that be real with you, and that's how you grow. It's been times where we talk to 2-3 in the morning, eating, drinking food, drinking, and all whatever.
Coffee,
right? Talking about God to 3-4 in the morning, and I'm like, man, it's time to go to bed, bro. No, what you think about this? And I'm not gonna ask no more questions, but I'm gonna end it with this. We had conversations about, God is in control, right? We know that, and God knows what's gonna happen before it happens. And the next topic, we can touch on it in the next episode. Predestination. What did that look like? You know what I'm saying? Are we truly in control, right? Are we truly, in a sense, have this free will, right? Because we couldn't save ourselves, right? God has to intervene and save us. So right there, it's like, do we really got free will? So I know, and whoever watching, stay tuned for that. That might be 2 hours. And for the relationship, there's people that searching for their wives and husbands, man. All I can say is, and Jimmy, he can say whatever, because sometimes we go, we agree on a lot, and sometimes we disagree. But I'm gonna say this, is that if you looking for, that guy, or you looking for that girl, I'll say, be who you looking for, in a sense. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people in the world wants to hold on to want to be a hoe, but then also want to be a housewife. You gotta pick one. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be in that lane or the other lane. And I feel like when you dib and dab, God sees that. And I feel like the reason why a lot of people single and can't find the one is because God is still, you reaping what you sowing. You know, and I think with Jimmy, have people around you like him. You know, I have other friends too that tell me the truth. Like, bro, when you can be confronted with truth, bro, your conscience is already telling you what it is, and we have a choice, a choice to ignore it. But if your friend come and say, "Hey, you say you want this, but you getting ran down," you know what I'm saying? You gotta make a decision, and I think that's the beauty about love is that God doesn't force anything. The world, how the principles of life doesn't force anything. You just get what you put in or put out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna let Jimmy just give his input on it, but that's all I got for y'all.
Yeah, and again, you know, I always like to play devil's advocate. I would say men too, we have to go back to respecting women and treating them not as a piece of meat or something I could smash on, but like as God's daughters, right? Because now my perspective has changed and yours has too. You got 3 girls. I got 1 little girl. Like, I can imagine a boy sexualizing my daughter. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's my daughter, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how God's looking at us, like, quit doing that. That's my daughter, you know? Even, and this is how gracious and merciful he is. Even if she hasn't come to salvation and doesn't know him, she may still be protected. That's how gracious God is, because that's what happened to me in my life. I ended up looking back after coming to salvation, growing in maturity, and realizing God's always protected me, even when I didn't deserve it. And so that's why for me, I'm so strung out on getting right with God and doing my best to be an example to my kids and walking uprightly, because I realized I was doing all these things that should have caused me to end up in death. And for some reason, I just never died. For some reason. But then some person does that what I'm doing the first time and dies. And it's crazy. And
right.
Again, that's the mystery of mercy and graciousness, right? So I would say men, let's go back to respecting women. And this is even, I'm talking to myself, right? Go back to respecting women, treating them as humans, as individuals, as co-heirs with us in this walk of life. So, you know, life is more than just, you know, hitting some meat, you know. So.
Right. Hey, and to the men, even, you know, that's God's child, even when she barely wearing clothes in the gym. I feel you. I understand.
Yep.
But I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Again, this is Jimmy. Welcome back again. Welcome back.
Man, I appreciate you bringing me on, brother.
Amen. It's always a pleasure. Hey, get around some real friends. Tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your grandma. Make sure you follow. Hit the share, hit the like, hit the subscribe, all that. All right.
Girl, next nigga, on to the next, she was vibing. But I ain't got no patience for no thotty. And I really tryna pray, but the voice is speaking louder. Man, I'm really in my feelings, I can't tap in. And I really want that love, show me action.